Hey, kids, how would you like to hear this on the screen instead of the great show you came to see? That's what you sound like. Honest. Please cooperate and do your part in keeping this theater quiet so everyone, including you, can enjoy it.
There it is.
All right. What up?
Done some music.
Intro music. Not quite funky. Yeah, sure. Air horns.
Air horns.
What up? What's happening? Welcome into another episode of the DNBA Show on DNVR Nuggets, YouTube and Periscope. I'm your host today, Brendan Vogt, joined by the original DNBA trio. To my left here, I got Adam Adams. What's up, brother?
None of these imposters like D-Line Co and Dev.
Like our friends and our hires. Get those guys out of here. Below us is Harrison Wind, the man with the Peloton in his hair.
We are presented by the one and only DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app.
Top-rated? That's just because they print money. They
Win
just give you
money,
money.
lose some money. It's a hoot.
Is there a promo code by chance that I could use if I sign up that would be good for DNVR?
You could use the promo code DNVR.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Perfect.
Try typing that in, see what happens. Maybe some money magically goes into your account. I don't know. Maybe.
Sounds great.
Well, we're not alone today, guys, as we often do when we're going to talk about the Phoenix Suns, or as we've done in the past, I should say. We like to bring in the homie Espo, friend of the show. Let's welcome him in. Oh, no. Air horns, air horns, air horns. What's up, brother? How's it going on?
I'm just admiring Harrison's artwork behind him. I see that we've got the one and only Steve Nash back there, so much appreciated. It makes me feel at home.
I hung that up for you, Espo, actually.
It's actually Brooklyn Nets legend Steve Nash up there. Yeah, it's just really, really incredible.
I prefer Los Angeles Lakers legend.
Oh, God, that's even worse. Yeah.
Oh, man. Hey, listen, man, I'm digging that hat. There's a new look. There's a new vibe going on in Phoenix these days. How you feeling about the Phoenix Suns vibe?
When we steal a look and feel from the Denver Nuggets, I couldn't be happier. Very, very much like your 90s uniforms. But yeah, I love the new look, and in terms of uniforms, but certainly love the new look on the court. It's actually a winning mentality and a group of guys that is the deepest we've seen in Phoenix probably in a decade.
I love it. I think it's good for the league. We know it's good for you, so we're stoked on that. We're going to talk about that plenty today.
Hold on. Can I interject here for a moment?
Please, Adam.
I don't like it. I don't like the new look, but only because do you remember – this is what it reminds me of. Do you remember this game, Greg? The old gorilla, the gorilla game. Do you remember this? That's what it reminds me of. It's very like boxy. It looks like there should be like gorillas, and which fits kind of the gorilla mascot.
Yeah, it fits that. I don't like the pixelation. I like the idea of it. I didn't like the 8-bit pixelization that you get going on it. So I agree with you on that front.
Can you show the hat like a real close up? Just like you can imagine one gorilla on the left side, another gorilla on the right side, then you have to guess velocity and angle in order to destroy the other gorilla. So
I always thought it looked like an ultimate Frisbee jersey, but look, we'll get to the Suns. We'll talk more.
I called it an ultimate concert jersey or an ultimate music festival jersey.
That's true. It's definitely a music festival. Oh my God, that's exactly what it is. But hey, we gotta do some housekeeping, guys. This is a Denver Nuggets show after all, and we did hear from some of the Denver Nuggets today after they practiced this morning. We will get into specific notes, specific quotes, but first, what you all want, the MPJ update, or rather the update that did not happen. Wind.
Shocker.
What can you tell us right now, what we learned, what we haven't learned about MPJ's status heading into Friday?
Yeah, he's going to be questionable, it looks like, for Friday. I have a feeling it's going to be like something we learn tomorrow or maybe tomorrow afternoon if he plays or not. It seems like he's still got to pass like one final physical testing type thing to get totally cleared. So it seems to me, if I'm trying to read the room, it feels like he's going to be playing tomorrow. It's not official, but I would be surprised if he wasn't playing tomorrow night in Phoenix.
Greg, do they do this in Phoenix where they just never give you an update on a player status until tip-off?
Yes, very much so. That's a James Jones favorite there to not really let you know much of anything, and then they'll tweet out injury update, and you'll see the graphic, and you'll go, oh, okay, I guess that guy's not actually playing. So.
well, in this age of like lacking scouting and a lack of information, I'm sure teams are very thrown off when starters are announced late in the day. Yes. I don't know why they do this, but Adam, do you get that same sense? Are you holding your breath for MPJ to play tomorrow?
I don't really have a sense one way or the other. I was shocked over the last Thursday or Friday, when Malone said that he wouldn't play on Sunday or Tuesday. He basically ruled him out of Sunday and Tuesday last week. And I was shocked by that. So the fact that here we are a week later from that press conference and still not a confirmation, I don't know what to make of it. If he doesn't play, it'd be pretty frustrating. The Nuggets have 2 games back to back. They need bodies. And also just this process, this ticking clock of, hey, let's get this thing started. It needs to get going now. The Nuggets are 7-7. It feels like they're 0-0. It's just a fitting moment for him to return and to completely demolish and humiliate the Phoenix Suns and all of their fans.
Yeah, my hope is he's questionable for, some of those protocol reasons Wynn's talking about, and not that they actually haven't made up their mind yet. Wynn, did you have any sort of major takeaways from our brief conversation with Michael Malone this morning?
I mean, not particularly. The biggest question we're wondering right now is if MPJ comes back, and if he does come back, is he starting or if he's coming off the bench? Like, that's the big question we're wondering right now. I wouldn't be surprised if he came off the bench. I think that would be a mistake, though. I would definitely put him right back in the starting lineup because, look, he needs reps alongside Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic. He's not going to get many of those if he's coming off the bench, considering the Nuggets have pretty much committed to playing like that full bench unit together now. So I feel like if it was up to me, he'd be back in the starting lineup, but maybe Denver tries to ease him into this thing a little bit.
Just as you're saying this, and as I'm looking at Greg, I'm thinking like you guys went through this last year, right? Because Deandre Ayton, you're all excited. Here it is, year 2. We're gonna get this, we're gonna get this thing started, and then he tests positive for steroids. How many games did he miss?
25 for steroids, and then was injured when he came back after about I think it was a week or 2. So it was a long period. I think he only played 30-something games when it was all said and done.
And it was right off the bat too, right? Like, so you go through a whole camp of excitement and like, hey, here we go. And then, so this exact same situation Denver's been in. We're ready for the Michael Porter breakout year. And it just feels like it keeps delaying.
Well, if it's anything like DeAndre Ayton, you're not going to get it till next year. So.
Oh, God, don't say that.
And I mean, that's the thing. And Espo, I wonder if you relate to this. It's not just this individual prospect sort of being delayed getting off the ground. It's the big question for Denver this year, to Adam's point, was what does it look like with MPJ? The longer you go without starting that process, start answering that question. I mean, did Ayton's? I'm sure it set back the team as a whole, right? In a sense.
Yeah, they got lucky that Aaron Baines stepped up and played some big minutes and had a stretch where he played out of his mind in a way that we had never seen him play before, which helped them get off to a fast start. But yeah, they fell back to earth and did it quick. Had an 8-game losing streak without Ayton, and the thing with Ayton is everybody expects so much, obviously, as the number 1 pick, and he's been a disappointment in the fact that he's not living up to that, but he has progressed. And it's that balance of, and I'm sure you guys go through this too, that balance of we want it now, but we also understand big guys take a little longer, especially when there's injuries or suspensions, unfortunately, involved.
Sure. Well, Adam and Harrison, if MPJ does come back, if MPJ does start, I mean, what does this do to the rotation? Who's out? What does that bench look like? Mars, I'm sure you've put some thought into this.
Yeah, I've said, and I'm kind of going back to it. I know that Malone had the whole, I want to keep that bench lineup together. I still feel like, especially if we're listing him, part of why I suspect they're calling him questionable for tomorrow might just be he hasn't been with the team. Because remember, it's not even about, you couldn't play. He can't be with them. He can't be like training under the watchful eye of the coaching staff and training staff. So I wonder if he's in shape. I imagine it's hard to be in NBA shape on your own. So there's all of those questions as well. And because of that, I wouldn't be surprised if he did come off of the bench. Or I wouldn't even be surprised, to be honest, if he was active tomorrow. And it's like Malone's like, 50-50 of whether I'm going to play him. I might wait till the second.
Every game takes on its own identity, Adam. You know that.
That's so true.
But let's assume Harrison, maybe he doesn't start right away, but let's assume the plan is getting Michael Porter Jr. back to that starting small forward spot.
Yeah.
In your eyes, what does this do to the rotation? You're the hashtag trust the bench guy. We finally got a Hartenstein game. Hartenstein. I'll never get it.
You'll never get it.
What happens now with MPJ coming back? What should happen?
I hate to say it, but there's an obvious candidate for who gets dropped from the rotation, and it's Facu.
Yeah.
It's a pretty obvious choice, in my opinion. If MPJ is starting or if he's coming off the bench, that means Will Barton. Those roles could be flip-flopped. And Facu seems like the odd man out to me. And look, it's not like this is going to be set in stone. We know this is fluid type of stuff. If Hartenstein gets into foul trouble, boom, Facu's back in there. If like that bench unit needs a jolt of energy, maybe Facu's back in there in the second half after he doesn't play in the first half. So it's totally fluid, but my initial read is that it might be Facu who gets dropped.
I have two questions for Greg here. First one, we're talking about Facu. Do you know who that is? Is this a name that's like rung outside of Denver yet?
He's the guy that Chris Paul had a personal vendetta against a couple weeks ago.
The name is familiar, yes, and one of the best in the game for potentially an announcer screwing up and saying something.
Yeah, for sure.
You can call me Facu.
You can call me Facu. So my second question for you is, when we came into the season, we all were like, I like everybody on this roster. And now you're 14 games in and you're kind of like, Facu's a little small. I don't like how he does it. I don't like who this. Do you have this with the Suns where it's like you're 14 games in? Are there guys that are starting to get under your skin a little bit on the roster?
Oh, yeah. I mean, people
already.
Suns fans are divided. They're going at Deandre Ayton, half of them. They're already
DeAndre Ayton?
Yes. Some have turned on Devin Booker, assuming the Kardashian curse is real, based on a slow start there. Some have turned on Chris Paul, not like massively, but like, oh, this isn't what was advertised. For me, it's a guy like a Damian Jones, who's supposed to be the backup center and really hasn't provided much in terms of that.
Hard Rock Cafe, we relate.
You look at it, that was an area that was supposed to be one of the questionable depth-wise, and it's proven to be that. So there are guys like that. I think in your case, being 7-7, it probably exacerbates that a bit because you're expecting to be better. As a Suns fan at 8-5, you forgive some of it a little bit more because it's the best start they've had in a very long time. So you're forgiving of it, I guess.
You'd think.
I think some fan bases are just they're just always going to be miserable. This is what I take from this because, as you mentioned, the Suns are the 4 seed right now. Like everything's going great. So the fact that there were multiple players, and not just multiple players, but stars. Like if I were to ask, I would have said, well, obviously you're not upset at Ayton, Booker, or Chris Paul.
Right.
You're like your first 3 were Ayton, Booker, and Chris Paul. And I'm like, oh well, I guess
there were guys trying to trade DeAndre Ayton earlier this week and last week. So
wow,
that's the Wild West. No pun intended. That is the Phoenix Suns Twitter. So.
Okay, who are they trying to trade him for? Just to get a baseline here.
Luka?
They're like, we miss Rashawn Holmes. That's kind of stuff you hear. You're like, come on, guys. Like,
I love it, man.
I think Karl Anthony Towns is the one that most pine for. They're like, Minnesota's going to want to move off him, and hopefully you can deal DeAndre before his value is completely gone. You're like, all right.
Wow, this is wild.
Wait, what do you think about that? Would you hate that?
I would.
Towns
I mean, I like Towns, but he's not what Ayton already is on the defensive end. And your hope is Ayton can evolve into what Cat is on the offensive end, or a poor man's version of that. So you have the best of both worlds. I'm very much in the DeAndre Ayton camp, but we joke DA-anon, the conspiracy wing of Suns Twitter likes to find crazy ways to bag on it.
I love that because if you had a choice, we've thought about this choice thousands of times, but if possible, you want to do it with your own guys. It's just better. It feels better. it might not be the rational choice in the long term, but you just want to.
Money's part of it too right now. You look at it, DeAndre Ayton's on that team-friendly first contract. You got a couple more years before you have to make the decision on if you're going all in financially with him. If you trade him and you're trying to get a guy like Karl Anthony Towns, you've created, well, you may have a big three. You've created cap hell for yourself too between the guys, Devin Booker, CP3, and Karl Anthony Towns. You wouldn't be able to spend anywhere else. And depth is actually what's carried this team so far this year. So I'm much in the let's see what this young guy can bring. In the last 2 games if for DeAndre Ayton have kind of proven that that's probably the right strategy to go.
All right. Well,
this just proves that everybody's miserable. I mean, that's the only thing is just that it's comforting because I am miserable. So it's nice to see that Greg is miserable as well.
You've just described New Jersey. Like in essence, the whole world state.
Is New Jersey.
Yep. All right,
can I actually? I know I keep interrupting you here, but we have an extremely impatient commenter. And I apologize. He lives in a cave, and this is true. But he wants us to know from a Croatian fan, Dario Saric, fan, not fan. What do you think of his role?
I think he's found the perfect role for himself, and it started in the bubble last year and it sounds crazy, but as the backup center on the backup 5 on this roster, because he's very good at being a playmaker from that position. Even though he's smaller, he tries extremely hard on the defensive end. He's found that rotation. Now he's been in the protocol. There were some injury stuff, so he hasn't found a complete rhythm, but I like where they're using him and what he's been able to do. It was a smart move, I think, for the Suns to re-sign him and for him to come back to Phoenix because there's really a defined role that he fits quite well.
He's out right now, correct?
Yeah, protocol after the Memphis Grizzlies.
Jeez.
Excuse me, not the Washington Wizards debacle earlier last week. And then they just played Memphis the other day as well. So who knows what's coming up when
Scary hour.
Well, we've got some more we've got a good segment for you to talk about the Suns on the other side of the break. We'll do some buying or some selling on some stock shortly into the season. But real quick, just want to wrap up some practice thoughts. I want to address, because the quotes out there, Malone was asked about Will Barton's comments before the season, him referring to himself as a starter. And Malone did say Will Barton is a starter, but he also went on to say they have more than 5 starting caliber players on the team, which has been sort of his company line since the preseason. He did say that Michael Porter Jr. was the starter to open the year. So if you're worried if this was like a declaration that Phil is a starter now over MPJ, that's really not what happened there. So I just wanted to address that. Why don't we hit a break? And when we come back, we'll get into some of that fun stuff with Espo.
No music again today, so you got to go solo here, Harrison.
I can handle it. Guys, check out Hassel Cattle Company. Hassle-free meat for life. We brought you damn good beer. Now we're delivering to you damn good beef with Hassel Cattle Company, the absolute best source of farm-to-table Wagyu beef in the country. Hassel Cattle Company, a 4th-generation cattle farm out of Texas. They ship everywhere, all over the USA, and straight to your door. They call their beef blue-collar Wagyu because it's the best damn Wagyu in the land. They've got everything. We're talking New York strip, beef bacon, Wagyu Franks, jerky flavors. They got everything.
Did you get a package, Harrison? I can't remember.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So it's just Vogt didn't.
Yep,
okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
That sounds right.
I'm probably going to grow up a little New York steak tonight, New York strip tonight. You guys can get Hassel Cattle Company for 10% off with the code DNVR10. Check them out at hassellcattlecompany.com, HASSELL cattlecompany.com. Use promo code DNVR10 for 10% off your order or get free shipping on any order over $200. Also, a big weekend coming up on DraftKings Sportsbook. UFC's most notorious icon is stepping back into the octagon this Saturday. And check out DraftKings Sportsbook because they've got another one of these unbelievable offers that's pretty much free money out there, it seems like, at least. You've got a shot to turn $1 into $257. New users can bet $1 on Conor McGregor to win by knockout in the first round. And if he does, you'll be cashing in $257. Bet a little, win a lot. It's that simple. Of course, make sure to download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code DNVR when you sign up to turn $1 into $257 if Conor McGregor wins by first-round knockout. Place your bet. Watch the fist fly this weekend. That's code DNVR for new players. You got to be a new player to get $257 if Conor McGregor wins by first-round knockout. For a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older. Colorado only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700.
Wow, that was crisp. I could not have done that with no music. And there's no better way to kick off a segment than with no production value. But it's time to play a little buy or sell. There we go.
Whoa.
I like that. Well done.
I love sad vote.
Yeah. Well, not in real life, though. You usually give me a hard time when I'm sad.
I do give you a hard time.
Right. We've spliced up some Nuggets and Suns questions for you, Espo. We're going to have you go first on each question because you're our special guest and our friend. How about that? Are you buying or selling the Nuggets as a mediocre team, a fringe playoff team?
Selling. Completely selling.
Talk to us.
Ridiculous to even consider that.
Wow, that's the answer I was looking for.
I figured that's what you guys wanted.
No, but seriously, like they just haven't. Their best win of the season so far is against the Warriors. The Warriors. By the way, maybe a great win. The Warriors have looked great every game except for the one they played the Nuggets. So I don't know. I swear the Nuggets right now. You know those things you look at that's like an illusion where if you look at it one way it's a bunny, if you look at it another way it's the evil witch. Do you guys know this what I'm talking about? Or maybe it's bunny duck or something, I don't remember. This is what the Nuggets are. Like you can look at it and be like, right now I'm seeing the good team, like they're really good, they have a lot of impressive things, and then you kind of like blink a few times and go another angle and it's like, oh no, they suck. So I think it's at least a fair question. George Carl on the Keeping It 1000 podcast, he definitely is seeing the duck, not the bunny.
Marius, what do you think? Are you buying or selling this squad?
You want me to go again?
No. Did you answer?
We need a definitive.
From me. I'm selling them as a mediocre team. I still think they're good. I think it's going to be a little bit of a clunky year. I think there's going to be some real ups and downs. But I think that's true of everyone. Right. You know, if the Nuggets win tomorrow night and beat the Suns, they're just a half a game back of the Suns, who we just talked about as being all promising. I mean, everything feels crazier than it is right now.
It totally. The Nuggets are 7-7. They're 3.5 games back of the Clippers, who are the top seed in the West. So this thing is still super jumbled. And I like what Adam said when we opened the show. They're 7-7, but it feels like they could be 0-0 because they haven't had their full rotation together for a game yet. And yes, you got to put a big caveat in there by saying a lot of teams probably could say the same thing. But, for Denver, that's real also. They haven't had their full rotation together. Hopefully that happens for the first time Friday. But even then, it's going to take time for these guys to gel. And I feel like everybody knew it would take some time. And I'm talking about, like, the roster. And I think that's a reason that they're not panicking and nobody panicked when they were under 500 because they entered the year with an idea that it was going to take a lot of time.
No.
Espo, I feel like there's this dynamic where, in these media fan sort of respective bubbles we're all in, if your team starts the season 500, high expectations, it feels like the sky is falling. And when you are on the outside looking in, it is so very easy to look at any given team and say they're 7-7. Oh, well, the season just started, but I know they're good. I mean, do you relate to that at all? And am I right in thinking that's how you sort of look at the Nuggets?
Oh, yeah, you're completely right. Suns fans are acting like the house is on fire and they're the 4th seed in the West, the best they've been in a while. But, then you look at the Nuggets, you're like, yeah, they're going to be fine. This was a Western Conference Finals team last year. Look, my rule right now with how weird this year has been is I'm not taking anything serious till we get to 20 games. And then I feel like I'll have more of a feel. And it really depends, too, because how many, in the Suns instance, I think Monday was a schedule loss after missing 3 games because of the COVID situation and the health and safety protocol. So you come back and you play okay against Memphis, but you've been off for a week. Like, it's going to be very difficult to read a lot of these teams depending on how many games they may have to miss or what key players miss because of COVID and those kind of things. So we may never have a really great feel until we get to the playoffs, because that's when talent's going to win over anything else bizarre going on.
By the way, we have some commenters that's saying they just hopped in. Who's the new guy? This is our homie Espo, host of the Sun Solar podcast and the selfishly named The Espo Show. So yeah, he's the right guy to talk to when talking Suns. Okay, let's flip it over to your boys here, Espo. Phoenix, are you buying or selling them as a top 4 team out west?
I'm going to sell right now. I think they're a 5 or a 6 seed based on, like we were just talking about. I mean, teams like the Nuggets are going to wind up moving back up in the standings. And I think the Suns are going to go through a lot of growing pains as this season goes on. But I think they're a 5 or a 6 seed, and they're the kind of team that none of the higher seeds are really going to want to face early in the playoffs, because I think this roster is very much built for the playoffs. They're one of the slowest teams in the NBA right now in terms of offensive pace. You know, they play good half-court defense, which is weird to say as a Suns fan. Good and defense have never been in the same sentence in Phoenix before. So I'm not too worried if they finish 5 or 6, and I think that's about the range it probably would be.
Mars, you buying or selling this Phoenix squad as a home court team out west?
Probably selling them as a home court team, but I do think they're 5 or 6. Like I'm really high on them. This is the same thing I do when I talk about Denver, and I'm like, I think this Denver team can be really good, but there's just so many teams that also can be really good. I really think part of what's hard about being an analyst in the NBA right now is that we have such an influx of talent, and there's so many good players that you can look at it and go like, man, this team has really grown over 5 years, but so has the rest of the league somehow. They just keep getting better. So I think the Suns are really good. I think Chris Paul's like, one of the worst things we do as analysts and in just the world over the last 10, 15 years is we just ruin every experience because we hate a guy or like this. Like Chris Paul is, I don't know, in my opinion, one of the 5, 6, 7, 8 best point guards of all time. And we talk about this dude as if he's some kind of giant loser or something. And him going to the Phoenix Suns, even though he was old, it's the same thing with LeBron. We thought, okay, maybe he's older. Nope, he's not. He looks great. So the fact that now he is not old, it's like that's a major addition. That's a major piece that just brings everything together. I buy them as a very good team. And I think they probably are in the category with Denver. Denver's more established. I think they're more confident, and I think push comes to shove, like I would take Denver. But if you just talk about talent, Phoenix Suns have a lot of talent, a lot of players. They might lead the NBA in players that I'm jealous that we don't have.
I love that point, and I'm going to sell them as a top 4 team, but like you guys, I still think they're legit. And what I love about Phoenix is that roster fits together so perfectly. And one of the bones that we've had to pick with the Nuggets early on this season is that the pieces just haven't really fit. It's an imbalanced roster. There's too many guards. There's not enough wings. I look at the Phoenix roster, and I just love the personnel. The shooting that they have on the wings, the toughness that Jay Crowder brings. I just love the offseason they had and how the pieces fit. They kind of remind me of the Utah Jazz a little bit from last year's team in terms of them being just like pretty deep and having just a really solid identity and just knowing who they are.
Are they your new favorites? For the longest time, you stay on the Jazz. It was very uncomfortable. Did you move to another of Colorado's neighbors?
I just like how they were built, man. I like how they were built. It seemed like Phoenix went to the offseason with a very firm plan of what they needed to add, like toughness with Jay Crowder, and obviously getting Chris Paul was a huge win. I just like the direction that they're heading. It seems like they're on a very defined trajectory.
I like Harrison running the 4 corners of fandom there. You know?
Exactly. That's exactly what he's doing. It's really it's crazy. So I want to go through the players on the Phoenix roster that I am officially jealous of real quick.
Yep.
Is this Michael Bridges or Mikal Bridges? It's Michael Bridges, right? Mikal Bridges. Screw that up again.
No. You're fine, buddy. You're fine.
Number 1. I think he's maybe number 1. My guy, Javon Carter. Absolutely jealous of him. Big fan.
I'm convinced Javon Carter is related to Adam in some way.
He's pushing the propaganda.
Javon Carter is a bit defensively like what we were hoping Facu would be, and still can be. There's still plenty of time for him. But like, are you kidding? Javon Carter is like an ultimate, like when he's on the court. Imagine being a point guard when Javon Carter's on the court. It must be so annoying. He's my guy. We get Cameron Johnson, big Cameron Johnson fan. So
Cam Johnson's the one for me, man. Oh,
who?
Cam Johnson's the guy for me. I'm so jealous of Cam Johnson.
You cannot have him. I'm sorry.
And then Dario Saric. So there's 4 players, and then Chris Paul, of course. And Devin Booker, I think, is really good. I'm not necessarily jealous of him. He just seems like the type of guy that would not be in Denver. He's the same with Phoenix. I kind of feel like he might get out of Phoenix quick.
Oh, man, don't do that to him.
I'm just saying I don't want that stress. So so I'm not necessarily jealous, but all those role players though, they're great.
All right, let's keep.
Javon Carter surprisingly beloved here too, so you're not alone there, Adam.
Anybody that watches him loves him. Exactly. I always say be a star in your role. He is a star backup defensive point guard.
The Lonzo to Carter pivot here, just immediate. All right, back to the Nuggets real quick. Jokic off to a ridiculous start, a historic start. But the Nuggets aren't winning very many games. Espo, you buying or selling Jokic's MVP candidacy?
I'm buying it because as I said before, I still believe that the Nuggets are going to turn this around and be one of the top 4 in the West. And when you look at that, that's going to be because of Jokic. So I'm going to buy that.
Mars, I know you don't want to hear it, but no. Right now he's an early candidate.
No, I mean, look, I think Jokic is going to deserve the MVP by the end of the year. That's as far as I'll go with it. I think he will deserve it.
Oh, you're so right. Win, you buying or selling?
I'm going to buy just because I think Denver still has a path to the 3 seed. But they have to probably get the 1 or the 2, if we're being honest, and they really might have to get the 1. I don't know if you guys saw the ESPN tiers article that came out for the MVPs, I think yesterday, but Luka Doncic is in tier 1 right now, according to them. Nikola Jokic is in tier 2, simply because Nuggets are 7-7. You know who's also 7-7?
The Dallas Mavericks. Yeah,
look, ESPN pushing that storyline. They were running ads about preseason about could he be an MVP? So that they're all in on that, and I get it. Star power is what they're looking for to sell games, but I think Jokic at this point is more deserving than Luka is, but I'm biased, obviously. So.
Hey, the Basketball Reference MVP tracker, just based off numbers, historical precedent for statistical cases. Number 2 right now, Kevin Durant just under 11%. Number 1, Nikola Jokic just under 47%. So statistically, he's running away with it, but we know that's not the whole thing.
I honestly think he's been better than his statistics. That sounds crazy. Yeah. If you want to submit, like if there was a Hall of Fame or not a Hall of Fame, MVP committee, I want to cut the 3-minute span in which the Nuggets missed 7 straight shots against the Utah Jazz, and Jokic just threw 7 straight potential assists, grabbed 7 straight offensive rebounds, and just kept passing it to wide open guys, and they kept missing. That's what I want. Because I saw on the timeline the other day somebody trying to get some clout. Actually, it's a friend of mine, but F him. He said something about Jokic gets assists that aren't really assists. I want to show him the real and be like, guys, just look at how many times he throws to a wide open guy off of something completely incredible. And unfortunately, right now, guys are bricking shots left and right.
We got to keep it moving, but commenters, I am curious. Do you think what's more difficult at this point? Jokic averaging the triple-double or Denver getting into that 4 or 3 seed? I'm curious which one's more in jeopardy. But let's keep it moving on our end. Espo, if I told you the Suns have certainly turned a corner, they look like a different organization. If I told you the top factor in that was Chris Paul, are you buying or selling Chris Paul's impact?
Selling. It's not downplaying Chris Paul's impact, but Monty Williams is the guy that's made the biggest impact on the court with that. You could argue James Jones is a close second for putting together the roster, but Monty Williams came in and was a calming force, was a guy that changed the mindset of players, found a way to get the most out of guys like aforementioned Aaron Baines. We've seen Kelly Oubre struggle with the Warriors. Monty Williams was able to get as much as he could out of him as well. Monty Williams has installed the culture as much as anybody, and I give him the credit for it.
Man, that's a really cool answer. That was a good one. Adam, do you obviously Espo's the guy he would know, but I mean, it's no coincidence, right? That over the years where Chris Paul has been, maybe we've seen a sense of purpose instilled in an organization.
I mean, first of all, you saw last year with Oklahoma City, literally nobody predicted them to be a playoff team, and they were like a really good one, or a really good team that made the playoffs. I do think that here's what's tough. I think it's a confluence of a bunch of different things. One of it is you have a really young team where you expected guys to start to take steps forward, right? Like it's not a surprise DeAndre Ayton or Cam Johnson or these guys are playing significantly better than what they did last year because they're at an age when that curve is so steep. You did get a coach that I think is an absolutely fantastic coach for a young team. I don't know if he's I don't know if he's your final coach or what have you. I hope he is, because I think he's a great guy. Great for the moment. And then, as you mentioned, some of the moves that they made this summer around the edges, I think have been really positive as well. So I think all of those things are a factor, but if you took Chris Paul out of that, to me, that would make the biggest. If you sort of experimented and took one piece out of a time, I think the Jenga piece that makes the tower fall down would be Chris Paul.
When we've sort of covered all the bases of the question, so just open floor. What are your thoughts on Chris Paul's impact in Phoenix?
Well, the reason I wanted Chris Paul in Denver so badly this season before Phoenix got him, because I always thought back to what happened to the Nuggets when Chauncey Billups got to Denver and how it seemed like that team just grew up when Chauncey got here and Melo kind of changed his tone and everything. And a similar thing could happen in Phoenix, I feel like. And I think a similar thing could have happened in Denver if they were able to get Chris Paul. I mean, we'll see. But I just think he can have that type of effect on a team. And, by the time the year's up, maybe, I think we'll probably see that with a lot of the young guys Phoenix has.
Moving back to Denver for a second, Espo, the big question over here this season, how does Michael Porter Jr. look alongside Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic? Can he be a third star? Can he take the Nuggets to a championship level either this year or going forward? We haven't seen a ton of him. But just generally speaking, are you buying or selling that level of potential or that level of impact from MPJ?
I buy the potential for sure, but what it comes down to is, are you on the court?
Right.
And that's going to make all the difference, because we've seen plenty of guys that have the potential to be that third guy in a lineup for a team, but they just never get in rhythm because they're not on the court enough. And I really hope that's not the case here, like we had to go through with DeAndre Ayton last year for you guys. So I'll buy the potential, but it's going to take getting on the court and consistently staying on the court to reach it.
Sure.
I like that MPJ, I think he might have now missed more games to COVID protocols than injury, because so much of it is and then he's missed more than any of that to just not being on the rotation in Malone's rotation last year. So I'm still buying. I mean, I'm still buying. Did I freeze? No, I'm still buying MPJ and his impact. I do think that there's just going to, my opinion on him is, I think there's going to be a rough patch, and it probably is over the next 10 games where it's not going to feel right every single game. But I've long said, and I maintain, once they get through that portion, then I just think the Nuggets go to a whole other level. And that's why when people say they look at the Nuggets and say, hey, they're not as good as last year, I think they're fair. I think it's fair. They don't look like that right now. But I think the team they are in, certainly 20 games, but perhaps hopefully 10 games is a lot different than what they are right now.
Yeah. And the thing about the Nuggets heading into this year and getting better, taking that next step, it was really centered around Michael Porter Jr. taking that next step. And he obviously hasn't, because he hasn't played. He hasn't been in the line consistently. And, I hate to say it, but this year, it's probably just going to be a shit show all around. Guys are going to miss time. I'm sure this isn't going to be the last Nuggets rotation player who's out due to COVID protocols this season. It's not going to be. So for this to be one of maybe Michael Porter Jr.'s most important year in development and just in the trajectory of this Nuggets team, him meshing around Nicole and Jamal, it sucks that, this is the year when we're in a pandemic. It's the worst possible.
And that's why. So and that's why it sucks now. So many reasons. Yeah, I think I'm selling, inside of like this year is MPJ the answer. Like it's going to be what I thought it was going to be, before the season started. They could lose in the first round. They could get lucky and make it to the conference finals again. But I am absolutely buying, and especially so when stock is low, or apparently so, I am buying MPJ's long-term impact. Espo, all those concerns are real. But those are not bigger hurdles, in my opinion, than what Denver faces in terms of bringing in a player of MPJ's caliber to replace him, right? Like your chances of getting this guy are so slim, and he's here. And I just think he actually has the potential for an elite off-ball game. He could be an elite spot-up shooter, good cutter, great offensive rebounder. His approach will dictate a lot. His availability will dictate a lot. But he has the skill set, in my opinion, to dominate alongside two high-usage guys. Let's go back to Phoenix. You mentioned this already. We'll sort of split it up. Both the offense and the defense looks good. Are you buying or selling this top 10 offense so far for Phoenix?
I'm buying it because we haven't even seen them reach their full potential with it. Devin Booker hasn't had a traditional Devin Booker game yet. Chris Paul hasn't had what people feel would be a real breakout Chris Paul game. And for the first time this year, over the last two games, DeAndre Ayton has shown up finally on the offense. And why they need that so badly is because without him and his impact on the offense, you're requiring Mikal Bridges and Cameron Johnson to be on every night. You need their impact offensively every single night if DeAndre Ayton isn't bringing it. And I just don't think those two are ready for that. You'll see nights where both of them play immensely well. And a lot of times they actually happen on the same night. But you can't rely on that for the entire 72 games. You need DeAndre Ayton to be impactful. So I'll buy it because I still think there's a lot of room for growth in what this offense can do.
Mars?
Yeah. I want to ask actually where I want to go with this is I want to ask, you mentioned that Booker is with a Kardashian or something. I'm a little out of the loop. What exactly is happening here?
Just a little.
With Kendall Jenner, and he spent part of the quarantine time actually on an island with the Kardashian family. They quarantined for 2 weeks and went to a private island. So,
man, that's so lame. I'm selling. I'm totally selling this now. And he's in a slump, you said? Like, all right, I've heard enough, man. I've heard enough. I'm like 60% serious.
I know you are. That's the scary thing. I'm gonna buy. I'm just looking at Phoenix's stats here. Chris Paul's averaging 13.5 points per game, not really shooting the ball well. I feel like Chris Paul probably is just going to play possum for this whole regular season. Try to get DeAndre Ayton's confidence up. Try to get Cameron Johnson, all the role players, just try to get them to another level. And then Chris Paul is just going to turn it on for the playoffs. Like that's what's coming, right?
Well, so listening to this, I think I'm reading between the lines. Imagine if 2 years ago, Nuggets never made the playoffs, had a great run. Remember to go to game 82 against the Timberwolves. They don't get over the hump. Imagine if the Nuggets would have got Chris Paul and everyone would have been like, now the Nuggets are good because of Chris Paul. I feel like this might be a little, if I'm hearing correctly, this might be a little bit Espo of what you're hearing here and maybe why you're a little less gung-ho because you guys have a very good team. You've proven it in small doses. And now everyone's like, Chris Paul.
Right.
He's
Yep.
But that's what happens when you're a bad team for a decade. Yeah. The thing that gives you credibility is a guy like Chris Paul coming in, and everybody's going to assume he's the reason why that everything has changed, and that's perfectly fine. I don't care as long as the wins are there, and that's all that matters. You can give all the credit to Chris Paul for all I care if they make the playoffs.
That's not true though, man, because it is a short skip from like. And they suck, but look what Chris Paul has done for them. And then it's just like annoying. Like you guys can imagine this with Jokic and Murray, and it's like, well, they never won, and now Chris Paul.
What the Suns did in the bubble, like we would have such small market protective energy. Like they were heading in this direction anyway.
Right. So
yeah, but they wouldn't have. I don't think they take that next step if they don't go get a guy like Chris Paul.
Right.
And you're not adding Jay Crowder. You're not adding a guy like a Langston Galloway on a vet minimum who's had an impact offensively. That's the difference is you're able to convince guys to take a little less to come in or convince a guy like a Dario Saric to stay on a lesser offer. Those kind of things that are the Chris Paul impact that have an impact on the floor beyond just what he's doing.
All right, we'll wrap up the second with one last one. I believe Espo, the Nuggets are 10th as well, or the Suns, I should say, are 10th as well on the defensive end. Are you buying or selling a top 10 defense?
I am buying the defense, and I may be more confident in the defense than I am the offense at this point. Deandre Ayton has blossomed into that centerpiece for the defense. He still has some lapses from time to time, but he is playing extremely well on the defensive end. He's captaining that. Obviously, Chris Paul and Jay Crowder bring a toughness. Campaign has been spectacular defensively, and they've run a lineup with Campaign and Javon Carter that has been quite difficult for backcourt when Campaign's been healthy. So I'm buying the defense. They're all bought in there, and it's clicking. I think it's more so than the offense at this point.
All right, guys, let's hit this quick break, and then we'll wrap things up. We'll look at the playoff picture. Mares, you got to bounce? You're out of here?
I do have to bounce. I'm being called into the office for filming here. Right. But Greg, it's good seeing you. I hope you guys lose 2 in a row.
Good seeing you.
All right, guys, make sure to check out Green Mountain Dental Group. We've had several DNVR listeners switch over to Green Mountain Dental Group over the years to make them their permanent family dentist. They're great people. Green Mountain Dental Group, they care about you. And a lot of us here at DNVR, we've gone there to get our wisdom teeth pulled, get our teeth cleaned, cavities filled, the whole shebang. They will hook you up with a free Sonicare toothbrush today when you schedule a cleaning, x-ray, and exam. And if you're not familiar with Sonicare, a top-of-the-line electric toothbrush. So get one from Green Mountain Dental Group when you schedule a cleaning, x-ray, and exam today. Also, check out Strava Craft Coffee, packed with CBD. CBD, of course, has been known to help cure long-term migraines, back pain, arthritis, etc. You guys can get Strava Craft Coffee at StravaCraftCoffee.com, and you can get a subscription to Strava Craft Coffee for 20% off with the code DNVR20. So head to StravaCraftCoffee.com, type in that code DNVR20, get 20% off a Strava Craft Coffee subscription, or if this is your first order of Strava Craft, you can get 20% off that order with the code DNVR20.
All right, dudes, we'll wrap this up with a sort of rapid fire kind of thing. I just wanted to run through the playoff standings as they sit today, and I'll kind of tailor a question to each team, a little bit of buying or selling here. Espo, right now, the Clippers are tied for the 1 seed with the Lakers. Technically, they are the 1 seed right now. Are you buying them as the best team out west?
No, still the Lakers, and you're not going to change my mindset. Even if the Clippers wind up as the 1 seed, I still think the Lakers are superior to them until they prove it in the playoffs.
Win?
Yeah, I think it's the Lakers. And look, the Lakers right now are 11-4, tied with the Clippers. It feels like the Lakers have been coasting to me. Feels like LeBron's been coasting. Feels like Anthony Davis has been coasting. And, you know, they're tied for the top of the conference right now. So I think it's still the Lakers. And the Clippers, they've been impressive. Paul George has been good. But, I mean, you're still always thinking about the collapses that they've had.
Yep.
Back to last playoffs and even this season too.
Absolutely. All right. With regards to the Lakers, then I guess the question is, are they a better or worse team than last year, Espo?
Better. I think they have a improved depth, and you've got a year under their belts playing together, KD and LeBron. I think they're a better team than last year for sure.
Win?
I think they're a better regular season team. I'm not ready to say they're a better playoff team just because the personnel.
Oh, no. Hate to see it. Do we lose Wind?
It appears so.
I do want to ask you about his point, though, because I kind of agree with him, particularly the Harrell signing. Like, I think any Clippers fan will tell you, or Nuggets fan, even from that series, that's why they lost that series. And to me, sort of what made Anthony Davis, beyond his individual defensive prowess, such a monster on that end was he was coming to help side with legit guys like Dwight Howard, right, playing center, guarding Jokic's. Not quite that same terrifying proposition in terms of size and strength this year. Is there any chance that maybe that the matchups change for them at all in the playoffs?
Well, I think certainly that could be the case, and it's going to depend on who they're facing too, whether that becomes problematic. I certainly think they're a better regular season team, but I do agree they may not be a better postseason team, but they just need to be the same, a similar postseason team, and they're going to likely win a second championship. When you have LeBron and AD, the other things are just garnish, obviously.
Right. I agree. Like the Herald dynamic, way bigger deal to the Clippers than it's going to be to the Lakers, who will probably optimize them. How about the Utah Jazz? Off to a nice start. They're 10-4. You surprised by what they're doing at all? Are you buying them as a top 3 team?
I'm not surprised that they're playing well. I mean, they have a lot of their core back, so it's not as if they've had the kind of adjustment that other teams have, especially the Suns in particular. A lot of people like to compare the Jazz and the Suns in terms of type of team makeup, where they might wind up and whatnot. Well, the Suns have had to try to figure out a lot of new pieces. The Jazz are trying to just figure out, how to pick up where they left off. And so I think that makes it easier for them. I think they'll be a good team. I think they're another one of these teams that's anywhere from 3 to 6.
Yeah.
I think it's the Nuggets, the Suns, the Jazz. There's a lot of teams that are just sitting there that somewhere in that 3 to 6 range. They're all just going to kind of move around throughout the year, I think.
Agreed with you there on the Jazz. We already talked about Phoenix quite a bit. One of the surprises of the season, the Golden State Warriors are 8-6, even without Klay Thompson. They look pretty good. Steph looks great. Are you buying them as a playoff team out west, or even more so like a 5-6 range team?
I think they're certainly going to be in the playoff discussion, especially with the moves we've seen Houston make that kind of pushes them back. In my mind, I'm not buying into the whole roster there. So I think the team that benefits the most is a Golden State Warriors type team, who they're probably going to be around 500 a lot of the year, but that may be good enough to get them in the discussion. When you have Steph Curry, I mean, anything's possible. That guy can basically do anything on a basketball court. And I mentioned Kelly Oubre briefly earlier. Well, he's had a horrific start to this season. If he recaptures anything like he was in Phoenix, there's an additional offensive firepower there as well. So I'm never going to write Golden State off with Steph playing the way he is.
Yeah, and more headroom too, right? Maybe Wiseman figures it out, some younger guys there. I had them slotted at kind of the 8 seed to start the season. I actually still think they'll finish around there, but I would pick them to make the playoffs at this point. How about Portland, 8-6? I mean, the record's fine. Everything's so jumbled here out west, but they're in the 6th seed. A lot of positive thoughts about their offseason initially. What do you think of Portland? Are you buying or selling them, especially with the Rocco acquisition?
I think I'm going to sell him because of the CJ McCollum broken foot. I mean, what it comes down to is you need him. You need him and Dame. And yeah, sure, Dame could carry them for a short period of time, but I just refuse to believe that. I think originally they're like, well, it could be a 4-week kind of thing. And I just refuse to believe broken foot is something you're coming back from in 4 weeks, and being able to perform at any high level. So I think Dame can carry him for a couple weeks, but I really think that's going to hurt them. They'll be a playoff team, but they're going to be one of those teams again in that play-in mix is kind of the way.
Nurkic injury too. And one of the biggest issues for Portland, I feel like, is all they've had to survive and get through just to get to the playoffs. Like, Dame is gassed, and understandably so, every time. So yeah, I don't know. Portland's in a bit of a trouble spot. Wind, Espo, almost done here. Memphis Grizzlies, 7-6, one of the fun feel-good stories of last year. Although, so what do you think of the direction they're heading in this year? Are you buying them as a playoff team out west?
I'm going to go as far as John Morant's going to take them. I think that's the bottom line with them. They're still a fun team to watch. They have that mentality still of just doing the little things and trying to surprise people. But I think they're, again, another team that's just going to be in that play-in mix. I don't think they're solid enough to be considered in the top 6 in the West.
Yeah, I think they'll be a play-in team too. And we all know the Grizzlies are my League Pass side piece. And I don't know if you guys have seen, but Xavier Tillman, the belle of the ball for NBA Draft Twitter, has been incredible. Has been incredible in limited minutes so far, ever since he's kind of been put in this rotation. So I'm buying them as a play-in team.
Yeah, they went even younger, didn't they? Playing those guys a lot. They're another rushing nesting doll kind of young core, has a young core team over there. Finish up with the Spurs. They're 8-7. I thought they were going to be pretty bad. I guess there's still time for that to flesh out, but decent start to the year. Espo, are the Spurs a playoff team?
Popovich. I don't know that they're a playoff team, but they're going to be right there in the discussion for the play-in just because of what Greg Popovich is able to get out of the most random accumulation of guys. Even when they had their stars, a lot of times it was the bench guys that would come in and play a big role and help buoy them,
right,
even in their heyday. So I never ever, and this is probably because I'm a Suns fan and have been hurt by the Spurs more times than I'd like to count, I never write off Greg Popovich.
When?
Yeah. It seems like they'll be right in the mix for the play-in, which is too bad because I was hoping DeMar DeRozan would be on the trade block at some time this year. He still could be, I guess, even if they're in contention for that play-in. But I'm not going to lie. I've thought about what DeMar DeRozan's fit on the Nuggets would look like as kind of a starter and then the fulcrum of a bench unit on the offensive end. Not going to lie, I've thought about that.
Yeah, it's definitely something to think about. Play-in territory, I would be surprised if they're one of the 8 teams at the end of the year. But we'll see. I mean, they certainly look a lot better than I thought so far. And just final thoughts, Dallas and Denver. I mean, the reason why I brought all this up is those are 2 teams we can all reasonably expect, I think, to work their way in here and shake up this playoff picture. So maybe Portland's in a trouble spot. We'll see with those injuries. But I think outside of those 2 teams up top, guys, in LA, there's still plenty to figure out west. Espo, we appreciate you as always, man. It's good stuff. We're really stoked on the Suns and everything that's going on and trending in the right direction. But we hope that abruptly goes in the other direction in the next couple of games.
We're hoping that you guys fall under 500, unfortunately.
Always a pleasure. Check them out on the actually, do you want to plug your own stuff, man? You're probably better at it than I am.
Yeah, you can check us out, myself and my co-host, out on the Sun Solar Panel. We do that live every Saturday at 8 a.m. Mountain Standard Time on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. So check us out. You can check me out on Twitter at Espo, and appreciate it as always. Love what you guys are doing at the DNVR, and jealous that we don't have something like that here in Phoenix.
Thank you, brother. Appreciate you, Espo. Appreciate you, Adam. Thanks to Frozen Harrison and to all the commenters. Make sure you throw a like on that YouTube video. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll talk to you soon.